So, Fran, welcome to the show, brother. I appreciate you being here. We connected just like last week
Yeah.
at Bella's spot, and you were telling your story about healing, your
Yes.
journey of healing and becoming the man that you are today. So, I'm like, he is perfect for the truth about him, right? Because it's not a lot of places that we can go to hear the truth about men, about what we think, how we feel, the trauma we've been through, and how we're healing.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm like, I gotta get him on the show. So you're here. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. So man, let's get into it.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's get into it. Let's talk about it. So men's trauma, right?
Yeah.
Men's trauma is something that I think that's really at a really high level right now, but we don't talk about it too much. You know, we keep our things inside. We don't share. We're not vulnerable, and because I guess we're not allowed to, right? So talk to me first about how you see men's trauma and how you see men responding to that today, about how they feel.
Yeah, so before this journey, I started at 40 years old. I'm 53 now. So I started this
Don't believe
journey.
that, but go ahead.
Yeah, nobody does.
Yeah.
But I started this journey of healing at 40.
Okay.
So we're going to go back like 13 years,
do it.
right? And so that whole emotional piece, when I was growing up, you know, fear of being judged.
Yeah.
I know I made a decision at 14 that I'm not going to be vulnerable when it came to women. And these are defining moments of my life, trying to survive these moments in time. I couldn't articulate it back then, but I could tell you what I felt and the body sensations that were connected to those emotions. And so, you know, you have to look back at your grandparents, how they grew up. Like, I had to go all the way back, man, to my dad's dad, my mom's dad, to see what life was like for them when they grew up. And my grandparents were they were children post-slavery.
Yeah.
So you can imagine the mental anguish that they saw from their childhood. So when I went through all of that and trying to put pieces together on why I behave the way I behave, or even why I picked some of the jobs that fit my emotional state, it made sense.
Wow. So you pick jobs based on your past and your ancestors.
I can tell you I joined the military because of some decisions I made as a child, that the military was a perfect fit for what I was dealing with, and it even fed the monster inside.
The monster inside.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
The monster inside was, there's something wrong here. I'm on my own and I don't belong.
Wow.
Those were three defining decisions that I made that shaped my view of myself and how I viewed life.
Right.
And each one of those played a part that when I joined the military, everybody loves a soldier.
Yeah.
I was never alone. And I had a sense of identity and pride.
Yeah.
And those were the things that I thought were missing in my environment as I grew up, because I thought my dad didn't love me, my mom abandoned me, and then who the heck was Farron? Because I used to play basketball, but during this breakup at junior high school with this girl, like, my identity was in basketball.
Yeah.
And so all of that played a part. And when I could look back and say, the military fed everything that I was trying to suppress.
Yeah.
Even to the point where when I joined the military at 19, one of the things that they tell you is you cannot worry about where your wife is or your girlfriend is. Jody got your girl and gone.
What?
Jody got your girl and gone.
Okay.
Because so what they said was, if you are here with us and you're training or we're in war and you are worried, daydreaming about where your wife is or where your girlfriend is, then guess what? You could get your whole squad killed.
Right.
'Cause
I'll make sure we hear you. So just the mic is pull it up, just like grab it from here.
Yeah, it kind of moved a little bit.
Okay, there you go. Cool. I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So with the way that they describe, you know, emotions, you cannot worry about where your girlfriend is at, where your wife is at, because you could get your whole squad killed daydreaming.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense because you have to survive. But what does that do to a young man who's already got emotional issues with women?
Right. Right.
So now those feelings and emotions are suppressed even more, because now I can't feel.
Wow.
And then you come home, try to be in your relationship, and
You wonder what happened while I was gone and all that.
Yeah, and so you block off your emotions and your feelings. So I can't. I feel inside, but I can't voice it to you. So I can't worry about you. So then the woman's gonna think, well, you don't care about me, you don't love me. Well, if I gotta go somewhere and go off to war, I gotta disconnect from you.
Yeah.
But then you learn that's part of who you be as a person. Disconnection.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you thought your mom and dad didn't love you. So that's interesting. You said thought.
Thought, yeah.
Tell me about that.
So they say that, in life we make decisions about our parents. Like there's a natural break in communication between that child and parent.
Okay.
Right. And so the education that I took brought me to those spaces in their curriculum. And so there's a conversation about our parents. And then when I put my life in that conversation about how I viewed my father, this story of this 5-year-old child during Christmas, it was like always in my mind. Like there was a story that I would think about, but I always wondered, like, why do I remember that day so much?
Yeah.
Like, why is that day so significant? Well, that was one of my defining moments about my father that I made up that he didn't love me.
You made up.
Oh, I made it up. It was not. It was my truth, but it wasn't the truth.
Okay. Unpack that more for me.
So, as a 5-year-old, I'm on this floor Christmas time playing on my toys and stuff, and I remember my dad being there because he bought me toys and gifts. So, at some point of the day, I look up and I'm like, "Where's my dad?" And somebody in the room says he's gone. So my brain, why did he leave? It's special. Wow. Oh, he doesn't love me. Wow. And I continue to play on the floor.
Wow.
So that decision in that moment had me now, when I saw my dad or hung out with my dad, in my background of my mind was, he doesn't love me.
So that, you say you were 5.
5.
So you were 5, and that, he doesn't love me, played in your mind for years after that?
35 years,
35
until 40 years old, when I discovered where that was coming from.
Wow. So how does that happen? I mean, so how does that one instance make you figure out, okay, he doesn't love me for 35 years? Like, how does that happen? Like,
the best way I could tell you I learned it is once you study the being of human beings and how we make decisions and we give meaning to life and we describe life and how we talk, how powerful language is, how the brain is created to survive and takes pictures of memories so we can know how to navigate and all of that in the emotional system in the limbics, like all of that, you've got to be able to understand how that stuff functions. And so the education that I took taught us how those functions operate. Right. And when you can when you're willing to do the work and tell the truth to yourself, then you can put those conversations in your life and you can see, well, was that the truth about my father that I made up at 5 years old?
Right. And I like how you said that I made up.
Yeah.
Right. So how did that instead 5 years old and 35 years later, how did that structure your life and play your life out for 35 years? So like, how did that impact you and serve you?
It destroyed my relationship with my dad.
Wow. Okay.
Because I loved him, but he got on my nerve.
Okay.
Remember, he doesn't love me is in the background of my thoughts. And so we would hang out and, spend time together, but I had no patience. I always thought he did something to try to make up for those times that he didn't show up. So I had all these different experiences. And then the evidence, because when you make those decisions, your brain is now looking to survive that. So it's looking for evidence to prove those thoughts.
That's crazy.
So for 35 years, I had enough proof that my dad didn't love me. He would tell me he was going to pick me up and wouldn't pick me up. Like I'd be waiting at the door. But what I found out 46 something years later was that my mom and dad had a conversation when I was 8, and my dad took the ultimatum and went about his lifestyle. But nobody told me.
No one told you.
So from 8 to 15, I'm trying to see this guy, and he's telling me, okay, I'll pick you up, but he couldn't pick me up.
Why couldn't he pick you up?
Because there was a conversation between him and my mom that my mom told him, I don't want my son in that environment. So you either do what you're going to do or whatever, but I don't want my son in that environment. So my dad chose his environment.
Huh.
So when I would call him to pick me up, instead of him saying, I can't come and get you, son, or nobody telling me what was going on in their relationship about me. So then every time he would say he would pick me up and he didn't, it reinforced the disappointment. It reinforced that he didn't love me. It was just more evidence for 8 years that no, he doesn't love me. That's why he's not picking me up.
But it seems to me that that's kind of like real evidence, right? Because if he truly didn't come pick you up, then that was something that he didn't choose to do, right? So in a sense, was it true? I mean, I know he loved you, but why did he choose that over you?
Again, as parents, we do what we do, why we do, and he has his own life of reasons of why he was doing what he did. And the main part I want people to understand is sometimes our parents put our concerns on our children, and not tell the child the truth.
Right.
We need to tell the child the truth, and that's something that that's one of my main conversations in sharing my story, because I'm a parent now.
Yeah.
And we have to tell those children the truth enough for their understanding, so that that's the story that gets planted in their mind, not the story that we make up.
Right.
Because we all make up a story. If we don't get the full details, we're going to fill in the rest of the script.
Right.
And again, my script is now my truth. So no matter what you tell me, that's not the truth, because my truth is this.
Right.
And as a child, in our perception, we're children.
Right.
But the brain is developing. So people discount that 2-year-old. They discount that 5-year-old.
Yeah.
They discount, he's 8, he's 9. He's not going to understand about divorce.
Yeah.
You best believe that if you don't tell the child some of that truth, that they're going to walk away and make up their own story. And then now they blame, and then we blame ourselves. Yeah. So I was blaming silently, it's an emotional trauma, silently.
Yeah.
And so we suffer in silence a lot, but we don't tell the truth about that. So as men, we have all this ego stuff that we're taught in our environment, and so we suffer in silence.
We suffer in silence. That's huge, right? And I like how you said that, we have to tell the kids the truth.
Yes.
And even though they may not understand, what exactly divorce is, if we don't share these things, they can feel the energy in what mom and dad are doing, right? So when you say the truth, so what is the truth? So, talking to a child, so back then when you were 5 or 8 and the conversation happened between your mom and dad, knowing what you know now, what should have been the truth for you at that age?
See, the ultimatum that my mom gave my dad about picking me up, as a child, I knew there was something going on in my dad's world, but I didn't have the language for it. But I wasn't, like I said, the brain, we discount how powerful the brain is, right? And so they could have just told me that, hey, you know what? Me and your dad are going through some things right now. He's not going to be able to see you right now, whatever.
That simple,
And so now I got, my dad's not going to see me. So when I'm trying to call this dude to pick me up, and I'm getting dressed and I'm waiting, and I'm excited to see my father, and he's telling me he's on his way and he's not coming.
Yeah.
What is that? Why couldn't you just tell me something about that?
Your narrative about the story.
Exactly.
About why
so tell the truth, at least at a level where that child could understand, so that, again, what goes in my memory is at least that, and not it's because of me, not because he don't love me. It's because, he can't come and pick me up during this time frame, so I gotta wait. And that could have me ask my parents more questions. When am I going to see my dad? Are y'all working it out? Like that changes the dynamic of how my life shows up for myself and my parents.
Yeah, and that's good. Because I think everybody goes through some sort of childhood trauma, right? And we live our life based on what we know and based on what we learned, based on what our parents taught us. Yeah. And I had to go through something similar with my father, because he just chose not to be around, like no way. So he was a drug addict, and I didn't see him. So my mom took me away at a young age, and throughout my life, I made up a story, right?
Of course,
he doesn't love me. He doesn't care for me. Why would he abandon me? And that made me have abandonment issues.
Of course,
right? It's like, wow, no one wants to be around me. And then going through my healing journey, I found out that his father hated him right? And then my grandfather's father hated him, right? So it was a cycle. And like no one looks back, and we only do life out based off what we're taught, right? And we're not responsible for what happens to us. We're responsible for changing and doing something different.
Oh yeah, for
right.
sure.
So it's just looking back at what our family tree was, and what kind of, and that trauma. That trauma came from years of abuse, right?
I had to go back when I discovered my own situation.
Yeah.
I have 3 daughters.
Yeah.
I had to go back to my daughters and let them heal with me in the same way, reverse, because when I grew up with my dad not being around, well, then when I had my daughters and the things that I put in to make it mean about myself and my daughters, I just wait till they get older.
Right.
I'll deal with it when they get older.
Right.
That was the worst decision I could have thought, because I missed out on so many years of their life, which then perpetuates that same trauma and the issues with their father. And now these are the girls, and which is a whole nother level of impact. But again, I didn't know that. I'm just doing what my dad did to me, so I'm thinking that's how you do it as a father. I'll just deal with it when they get older.
Right.
Man, that was the worst decision that I made, because I could have been there in some capacity to help nurture that or whatever that was. But now I get to do it now
Of course.
in their 20s.
Yeah.
You know, I had to make those corrections, but the stories that they made up about me and how it impacted their life, we had to go back and unravel.
Right. But you did that.
I had to.
You had to.
I had to, because I saw what I dealt with. I could only imagine what my daughters dealt with. So I quickly went back and used the same skills and put two of the 3 took the same education I took, so they could get their own clarity about their own life, right? And so now we could have a conversation from the story and what we all made it mean. And now it's like, okay, it was my truth, Dad, but what was going on with you when I was born? Oh, now we can have that talk.
Ask questions.
I was lost. So I could now tell my story and then match it with her story. And then my daughter, she was like, well, I could see why. I thought you didn't care about us. Like, I didn't think you didn't care about me. Like, but you had to work. You was in the military. You did this. You was doing this. So we both, we all had to figure out our traumas. And I can tell you, even with my oldest daughter right now, we're forgiven. She accept my forgiveness, but she's still hurt.
Of course.
And so her conversation is, I accept I forgive you, but I'll talk to you on my terms. And I have to accept that. Because of the consequences and my behavior. And I just know, when she looks in the mirror every day, she knows. But whatever that emotional thing is for her, I can understand, because I went through it with my parents.
Right. So hurt. When people are hurt, it just seems to me that it's something that they carry to avoid going through the additional pain to be healed. Because in healing, it's pain in healing, right? Because you have to go through something totally different outside of your comfort zone to become a different person, right? And I know in my hurt, I stayed there because it gave me a right to be upset.
Of course, yep. You just exactly,
right?
Exactly,
right.
There's
so it's like, tell me more about that.
If we don't take responsibility for our part in that, then we get to blame the other person, and we get a payoff.
Right.
I get to make my life is messed up because of you, Dad.
Yeah.
Because of you, Mom.
Right.
And then I have no responsibility for my part in that. And so it is painful, but what's so beautiful is on the other side of that is freedom.
It's freedom. Wow.
Right. But you have to go through that situation. But again, you got to be able to be honest. And if we're honest with ourselves, then I'm not worried about looking back. Because again, we go back to what we were trying to avoid. We try not to look bad. I don't want to look. Even if I know I'm wrong, I will still say I'm right just to look good.
Just to look good.
Right? To not look bad. But we don't understand that in the experience of that, there's no presence of love. So if I can make you wrong so I could look right, and I'm invalidating your experience, and so there's no love present between us, because there's an emotional part of this conversation I call it the experience of life. We're so focused on the activities of what we do with people that we've been hurt and disappointed so much in our childhood that I don't even care about feeling that no more. Just do what you just do it, but it's not Nike. You just can't do it.
right.
Because there's a human experience that we have to take responsibility for. Because if not, then like I said, if I'm right and you're wrong in the experience of it, then there's no love present. And if you take that spiritually, then how can you experience being in the presence of God when you're right in a righteous state of mind about people?
Wow. That was amazing.
So then that experience of love is not there. It's upset, it's frustration, is whatever it is for that person's description of how they experience life. Life is fun, exciting, and dangerous for me. Yeah. And when danger shows up, buddy, you better know it. And I'm military trained too. I'll shut my heart off in a minute, bro.
Wow.
And not even care.
Wow. But that's the journey of life, right? And,
unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately. And through life, you experience so many people on so many different levels. How do you adjust, or do you adjust who you are based on who you come in contact with, based on who you meet, or do you or you just like, this is you, accept me, I'm here, or do you adjust yourself a little bit?
You know, I can only say this because for me, I did the work in that, right? And so we only talked about my dad. We haven't talked about my mom, right? So we got to talk about,
of course,
the first two most important people in our life, which is our parents. And that plays a significant part of who we are when we show up in the world. Right? Because if my dad don't love me and I'm abandoned by my mother, how you think I'm going to show up with my friends? Right. I'm going to be pretending. Right. We call it a hypocrite. What's a hypocrite? Pretending. A hypocrite was a stage play back in the day where the guy would just come on stage and just, one actor, he would just change his mask.
Didn't know that. Really?
Yeah, that's where they got the word hypocrite from.
Okay.
And so we pretend as human beings when we're hurt, disappointed, and abandoned, we pretend everything is fine. Yeah. So then.
Pretender.
So we call it all, and now, we call it all kind of different languages now.
And pretending is a form of protection.
Of course.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna pretend like everything's fine when inside I'm hurt, I'm disappointed, whatever those emotions are. You're for that moment, you're suffering in silence. But I got this face on. The people call it a mask. I put my mask on and I'm fine, and I could be here with you and laugh and talk. And then I go home and I'm like, I'm miserable, and I'm drinking wine till I go to sleep and all that stuff because my self-expression is thwarted, and I don't know why. I have an idea why. So by the time I had the dad one, the mom one, and then the 14-year-old one, and some ones in between there, like my life of a 5-year-old, like the life of a series, I found decisions from 2 to 50. And each one of those shaped how I viewed myself, from the 6-year-old kid in elementary school that used to read with his finger. And my classmates laughed at me because I'm trying to read. So I'm not gonna read out loud no more.
Joe Rogan said most men live a life of quiet desperation, right? So it's like we don't express what we need, who we are, and that we truly need help, right? You told a story in a series about when you thought your mom abandoned you. And that was like, for me, right? It's like one statement. So please share that, because that's important.
That life of an 8-year-old, the latchkey kid of 1978. I love you, Mom. Like, that one was the most hurt decision that I made out of my whole life, because it shaped my relationship with my mom, but with women across the board.
There we go. Let's get into it.
Right? Across the board. And the life of a 2-year-old starts that, but the 8-year-old was the more significant, because I lived with my grandparents from 2 to 8. Okay. Right? My mom had me. She got her job. She would drive me to my grandparents' house, drop me off, pick me up after work. And my grandparents, they did a great thing. What most grandparents would do is leave them here.
Yeah.
Like, get yourself together, take care of yourself, pick them up on the weekends, whatever. But just leave them here. We'll take care of them. Great idea.
Great idea.
So I lived with my grandparents from 2 to 8. That's where I was nurtured.
Yeah.
My grandmother was mama. My mother was mommy. Like, my grandfather was daddy because my uncles and my aunt, that's who they called their parents.
Yeah.
So I took that on. But I knew in my head who was the difference with my own dad and my own mom. Like, I knew that. But the nurturing and the sourcing was really from there, in that environment with my grandparents. All my friends, you know, from 5 years, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, like, that's where I was rooted. And when my mom married my middle sister's dad, of course, we're going to be a family. We need to go get Farron now. Perfect. I mean, so they come and pick me up. But no one thought about, what is that going to do to Farron? And you uproot him out of his environment and you take him to this new place, and we call it being a new kid on the block, like all the stuff that comes with that when you're taken out of that environment to go to another environment. It is a very, again, silent, emotional trauma. It's emotional.
Just so I understand, so you were with your grandparents from 2 to 6. So
2 to 8.
I'm sorry, 2 to 8. So 6 years.
Yeah.
So you were there, living there.
You living there.
That was your family. And
Yeah.
Then,
so my mom would pick me up on the weekends.
Right.
And I would go to her apartment and I would cry. I want to go home.
Wow.
I want to go home. No, you're at home. No, I remember I want to go home. And so we battled with that because I wanted to always go back to my grandmother's house because that was home for me.
Yeah.
So the disconnection from my mom, that was really at 2 years old.
Wow.
Because that's where I started living with my grandparents. So during that time was all the emotional trauma between me and my mom. And we talked about it as a teenager and kind of laughed about it. Yeah. And she knew there was something that happened because I was so connected to my grandparents. But we didn't know how deep-rooted that story was for me. Yeah. And so when they picked me up at 8, now there's no babysitter. Now I'm by myself. And I'm at the door that one morning and I got my backpack going on. And my mom is like, okay, here's the key to the apartment. She shows up with this string with this key on it. And here's the key to the apartment. I'm leaving you. When you come home, lock the door. All the don't. Yeah. And in that moment, why'd you come and pick me up? Why are you leaving me? I could have stayed where I was at. I could have been at mama. Like,
even all at 8 years old.
All of that right there at the door in nanoseconds. I can't trust her because she's leaving me.
Because she's leaving me.
Oh, and I got this key. I can't lose this key because if I lose the key, I can't get in the apartment. So there's a level of responsibility on an 8-year-old. And I walked to school. But that pain in my chest, when I heard her say, I'm leaving you, man, I feel it in my knees right now just saying it.
Wow.
Because it was so deep rooted of the emotional pain because I didn't understand. I didn't understand that whole concept at 8 years old. Yeah. And then for an 8-year-old in time, and my mom, when I told her the stories, well, why didn't you say something? How did I know to say something? Yeah. I was 8. Yeah. All I know is what you said and what I felt, and I never, ever, ever wanted to feel that pain again in my chest. I'm telling you, I feel it right now talking to you about it. I never want to feel that pain again.
And it was the pain of what she said, I'm leaving you.
I'm leaving you. It was that when she said, I'm leaving you, here's the key to the apartment. I heard all the instructions, but that pain, I'm leaving you, because of the transition that I was in from my grandparents to living with her, I'm still connected to my grandparents. Yeah. Yeah. So you could have just left me there, like whatever that meant for me. But nobody ever thought about talking to Farron, like, hey, we're gonna be picking you up. Yeah. Like, I don't remember those conversations.
They just can't pick you up.
And
so was the pain? Was it like fear? Was it anger? Or like what was that pain that you felt?
It was abandonment pain. It was being left alone because now I'm coming home. Yeah. And I'm by myself.
Okay.
When I came to my grandmother's house, there was people there.
It was like a culture shock. It was
yeah,
like a shock.
Exactly.
Shock.
That's what it is. It's an emotional trauma. It's a shock. That transition. They say that transition happens from elementary to middle school.
Yeah.
Because you go from this small class to this larger class with more students, more teachers, and you're trying to find yourself.
Yeah.
It's a survival state of mind though.
Mm-hmm.
Like it wasn't abandoned after, it took me years.
Yeah.
But I was never abandoned.
Yeah.
But for an 8-year-old, and the brain and the meaning that we give life and the body sensations and surviving and all that, like we all have our version of that at some point. It may not be your 8-year-old. You might have been 9. There are people who have had to raise their siblings, right?
Yeah.
Right? And take care of their brother and sister, and they were 10, 12 years old, and they feel like they grew up too fast.
Yeah.
So they have this upset with that parent
Yep.
because I didn't have my childhood.
Yeah.
Like it shows up in so many different versions, but when you go back to the core of it, it goes back to those parents.
Yeah.
It goes back to that mom.
Yeah.
And me having to raise my sister and change her diapers and feed her and cook for her at 12. The emotional trauma is the same.
Yeah.
Or similar.
Yeah. I used to think people say, I don't know why I am the way I am.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I used to call it BS on that, but that's true because unless you've done the work and know where all this crap came from, you don't know why you do the things that you do, right?
I believe that if you tell the truth to yourself, just like I had those stories floating around in my head of snapshots of, we all have. I believe we all have those because when I put my life in that curriculum, those stories came to mind right there, like I felt it like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
So I believe that if we suppress those or whatever we think that we do in our brain to put them in a little box and store it to the side and not open that box. But I'm telling you, if we're willing to do the work and we're willing to tell the truth and do the work, I'm sure people will look in their life and be like, oh that's what that is. And that's what I pray my conversations that I'm having now allow people to do their work for themselves, to self-examine themselves. The Bible, the scripture that came with that was Malachi 4, 5, and 6. Mm-hmm. And when I got in this journey of my healing, I went to the Word, and Malachi 4, 5, and 6 talks about returning our hearts of our children back to our parents and hearts of our parents back to our children.
I love it.
Or there will be a curse on the land, right? And so the curse on the land is the emotional, we call them mama issues, daddy. Like we have different labels for them. But even if you look at in life with the social issues and the social ills, whether it's gang or young women having babies and all that, a lot of those, when they tell the truth, a lot of that comes from the disappointment of their family.
Wow.
Right in their home.
That's huge.
And so when I looked at my own life for that and could see, it's like, come on, then I know I'm not by myself. And plus the education I took, millions of people took that education, and we all in that education discovered those similar stories of whether it's up against your sibling or whatever that disconnection is from our parents. But our parents are the first. It's the parents first, mom and dad, and it's the peer age. And then once you get that peer decision that I made at 14, I'm not going to be vulnerable. It was a wrap. There's something wrong here. I'm on my own. It was a wrap.
Yeah. So most people, most parents, like even me, we're so worried about what our kids can get into and their influences outside the house. We never put emphasis on what we do inside the house, right? And I think if you do that, then a lot of those bonds will be broken.
Can I speak to that?
You sure can, please.
So, what I learned was that for my own daughters, that the current concerns that I have for my daughters was not the concerns that they have for their own life. So now remember, we grow up in our life, and we want to make sure that what we went through don't go happen to our children, right? So then we put those concerns on our children, but that's not us. That's not my life. So how do we do that? What I learned, the number one skill for me was take my worries and concerns, put them to the side, talk to my daughter. Hey, what's going on with you? What are you dealing with in life?
Gotcha.
Because what I'm worried about your life, obviously she ain't worried about that. So then I had to figure out what are your worries and concerns.
That's good. Yeah. That's
and
really
that
good.
allowed me to then listen to her worries and help her strengthen those. And guess what? When I helped her strengthen her worries and their worries, my worries were fulfilled.
Right.
Because your child will tell you, you're not listening to me.
Right.
You're not listening to me. You're not listening to me, Mom. You're not listening to me, Dad. You're not understand me.
Right.
Because as a parent, we're so worried about the traumas that we went through and the experiences that we don't want our children to have. But that's not our life.
That's not our life.
That's not our life. And so with the pressures that you put on your child from your life experiences, that's where the rebellion comes from, because we're not listening to our children.
That is good.
So we have to be able to, we have natural worries, concerns for our children.
Yeah.
Safety and all that stuff is natural. But what is your child's worry about life?
Oof.
And that's where you feed that and fulfill that and strengthen that skill, so that now they don't have those worries. And now you teach them how to work, how to manage those concerns. So is that a real worry?
Right.
Where is that worry coming from?
Right.
Because guess what? By the time they're 9 and 10, they're not talking to you no more. So guess what? I got to go back and see, hey, have I ever disappointed you? Like, I had to go back to my daughters and go through this structure. Have I ever disappointed you?
That's a hard question to ask.
But we do disappoint each
Right,
other, especially
exactly.
as parents.
Yeah.
And as a parent,
Right.
we're not perfect. We don't have it all. We don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
We think we do because I'm the parent now.
Yeah.
But again,
But do you think your child will be honest with you? Or at what age are they honest? Say, you know what, Dad, Mom, yeah, you did, and this is what happened. Right? Do you think they would truly be honest with you or try to protect you?
that's the whole point. Creating the space for that.
Yeah.
The sense of belonging to the family is what that child, ultimately is what the child, we all want to belong.
Yeah.
If I can't belong to my family, then I'm going to go belong to this gang.
Right.
I'm going to go belong because this predator said he could take care of me.
Right.
I'm going to go belong to, or I'm going to go be by myself.
Which is
Which
even worse.
is even worse.
Yeah.
And we got labels for that conversation.
Yeah.
But the sense of belonging is what we all want. And we'll lie to belong. We'll lie to be accepted.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Every day. Yeah.
It's that sense of belonging. And that's what, if we create that space as parents for our children, so they experience belonging to the family and have a say so, then then that child could come to me and say, hey, have I disappointed you? Oh yeah, Dad, by the way, when you did this, you didn't come to my basketball game and I was disappointed. But oh son, okay, you know what?
Yeah.
I appreciate and don't defend it. You have to create the space where I'm not gonna defend what you say.
Right.
I really want to hear what's going on with you so that we can make these corrections. Because as a parent, it's gonna be hard to hear what that child has to say about you.
Yeah.
Because we're gonna want to defend. I didn't do that, and that's what my mom.
Yeah.
I didn't do that.
Yeah.
Well, because I presented that conversation to my mom in a way that it made it more defensive. I was trying to do the forgiveness, and the way I languaged it, she got more defensive. So it took even longer to get that relationship worked out. But as a parent, we don't think we disappoint our children or whatever that is, and we do.
Yeah. And it's a hard question to ask, because I have a 9-year-old who I asked her that question maybe years ago. I thought I was doing everything for her, and I'm giving what you want. I asked her, I think I asked her that question. I read it to the point she said, "Yeah, you lied to me one time." I'm like, really, I don't remember.
Yes.
And I think I kind of defended, but I give you everything you want.
Yeah. No.
Right. But I'm like, now I look back, you know what? Because it's hard for us to hear that, because as a parent, we don't think our kids know anything, right? But Absolutely. They do. They know, they feel, and we have to be able to open up to that. And that just reminded me of that. It's like, we have to ask them, have I ever disappointed you? And be ready to hear something you don't want to hear. But it's the truth.
And again, in personal development, I could put the umbrella of truth over my head, and I could see that, you know what? I learned that withholding communication is communication.
Yeah.
So if I didn't say something that I could have said that could have altered that conversation or that experience for that person, then that's still back on me. Because you know what, I did say that, or I didn't say that, I did say this. Yeah. Maybe if I'd have said that, I could come back to you and be like, you know what, man, please forgive me. Yeah. That's not what I meant to say. Yeah. Can we fix this conversation?
Yeah.
That's me being responsible, not asking you.
Yeah.
That's me being able to look in my life and be like, you know what, I do have a part in that. and maybe I did say something or I didn't say something
Right.
that could have altered that conversation.
Right.
And so as parents, we got to be able to do that with our children,
Right.
because they're connected to us. And
They are.
when that connection, that's what I'm saying, when that natural brick of communication is broken from that child to parent, that child to father, if it's disappointment, if it's upset, if it's a lie, and I found out later that it was a lie and you lied to me, like, that is now part of my database.
Yeah.
That is now in my hard drive, and right now is the truth.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to catch you. I'm going to be listening for every time you say something to me, if it's a lie or not. And of course, you're not perfect. And so you're going to step up, or I'm going to hear you lie to somebody else. See, he lied to them.
Right.
So now that's my proof.
And kids are so good at hiding that stuff, because because they want to love us.
Human beings are good at it.
Give me some of that. Give me some of
Human
that
beings
one.
are good at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
We can't forget that as parents, we were children too.
Yeah, we were children too.
So it's a human being. To me, it's a human being flaw.
Yeah.
And we can correct it. We can correct those
Yeah,
flaws.
yeah.
But again, you got to be willing to be honest and be able to take that conversation from that child that says, hey, you know what? This is your weakness, Dad.
Yeah.
This is your strength.
Yeah.
This is where you disappointed me.
Oof. I need to have some conversations here very, very soon.
Yeah.
So everything that you experienced as a child, from when you were born to 8 years old to 14-year-old, that shaped who you are and who you were.
For
right?
sure.
And if it's okay, I would like to touch on your marriages.
Okay.
Right. How did the abandonment from your mom, the story you made up, how did that affect you with women?
Man, I'm still dealing with the residuals of that today, even though I have a better understanding of who I am. But what happened is, with that abandonment with my mom, right, that I can't trust women.
Yes.
Like, that's how I talk. That's how I would say it. And that sounds like women across the board, 100%. Like, I don't trust women at all. So, of course, growing up, you get a girlfriend. I got a girlfriend. We date or whatever. But that memory, that body sensation, one of those or either one of those would happen. She's gonna leave me.
Is this conscious or subconscious?
Subconscious.
Okay, subconscious. Okay.
She's gonna leave me. And so, how did I survive that feeling? Was I got to go find somebody else because I don't want to feel that abandonment feeling, right? So then at 14, the life of a 14-year-old, the day I gave up being vulnerable, 14-year-old girlfriend. I don't even know how she became my girlfriend. I don't even know how. I'm on a basketball court. That's where my identity was at the time in 8th grade, 9th grade. And one day she's my girlfriend, but she would tell me, you're not paying attention to me. Okay. So I would get her, walk her to this class or walk her to this whatever. And then I'd go back to playing basketball. Then one day she would say, I can at least remember 3 times or so she said, you're not paying attention to me. So one day after lunch, my friends were like, hey, you seen your girl? I said, you know what? No, I haven't seen her. Yeah, because she's talking to Sean.
I like how you said that. Like, oh, something's up.
She's talking to Sean. What? So I scuffle. I go to class. After school, I find her in the hallway. I'm like, hey, what's going on? She's like, you're not the guy for me. I'm like, what? Give me another chance. She's like, I told you wasn't paying attention to me. So I begged her, like, please give me another chance. Please. She says, no, you're not the guy for me.
That's her exact words.
Her exact words, you're not the guy for me. And I walked away. Man, I was so defeated. And in my brain, I'm not going to be vulnerable. And I got to defend myself in relationships.
Yeah.
That's what I made it mean at 14. And I walk home. Embarrassed because of my friends now, right?
Yeah.
There's a sense of being embarrassed because I lost my girl to some other dude, right? So all that I got to live with. As an adult, you meet someone, I meet someone, all of that is still in the background.
Yeah.
I like her. We might be together for like 2 weeks, and those memories come up about the 8-year-old and the 14-year-old and how I felt, and she's gonna leave me. So I got to go meet somebody else because I definitely don't want to feel that.
Yeah.
So now I got 2 girlfriends.
Wow.
And then when I realized that, oh shoot, they gonna find out about each other, I'm really gonna be by myself.
Right.
I go meet somebody else. Now I got 3 girlfriends.
This is a true story.
It's this was my life. And my friends, oh, you're a player. I'm not a player. What are you talking about? Oh, you got 2 girlfriends. I'm like, yeah, but I don't see myself as a player or a cheater.
Yeah.
But that's what society labels those behaviors.
Right.
In my mind, I don't know. I'm not that.
Yeah.
But I was surviving relationships, and then I'm labeled as a player or a cheater, or it's cool because you got 2 girls or whatever. But that's not who I wanted to be. But that was the label that was given to me. And I accepted it because I just didn't want to feel that pain.
Yeah, you took it on. Yeah.
I took on that because that was, I thought I was going to die. So when I got married, same thing.
Right.
Yeah, she was from the church and we were friends since, 13 years old, and we got married right before I joined the military and all that. But that's those same issues in my subconscious mind. They could show up 10 years later. They could show up 20 years later.
Wow. But they will show up.
But they will show up. Yeah. And how I responded to that in my mind, because I always thought my subconscious mind, that voice in my head was me.
Yeah.
And that was my truth.
Yeah.
But that's not me. That subconscious mind is not you. That voice in your head, when your mouth is closed, talking and giving you all those judgments and all that, that's not you. You are the person observing that in your mind. That's who you are. You're observing that. That subconscious mind is trying to keep us safe, protect us. Yeah. Is what it's designed to do. So those relationships failed. And at 40, I realized nobody had a chance.
Right.
Because I forced women to leave.
Yeah.
And then I justified it because I knew you was gonna leave.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm the one sabotaging the relationship.
Oof, man.
How else would you stay with me
so real.
if I'm the one that's I'm disconnected from you?
Yeah.
So she's calling me and I'm not answering the phone. I'm not, because I'm waiting for you to leave.
But you're forcing her to leave because you're not answering
the
phone.
Of course, yeah.
Or communicating or connecting. So yeah, she has to leave.
Of course she's gonna leave. Or they're gonna find out about each other. Because she's gonna come to my apartment one day and try to figure out, well, why are you at? You're not talking to me, and there's another girl in their house. All from a 5, a 8, a 14-year-old decision of who I thought I had to become to survive those experiences.
So I just want to make sure that we are crystal clear on what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
So your experiences with women, with marriage, with having 2 girlfriends, having 3, of that identity was from when you were a child.
Yes.
Right? And everything that we do as a child shapes and follows us to where we are today as an adults if we don't get help.
Definitely.
Right? When did you realize that, you know what, this is not me, who I am? When did your healing journey take place?
I was 39. I was transitioning out of the military from a medical retirement because I have sickle cell trait.
Okay.
And I experienced what they call exertional sickling with rhabdomyolysis. Mm-hmm. My red blood cells, my sickle cell trait genes mutated. I lost oxygen to my body after a 2-mile run in the military, and I almost died. I was dying. Wow. I had no idea. Took 5 years to figure what was going on with my body. 5 years. And then, at the space in my mind, depression, anxiety, life is over. I'm not afraid to die. I'm a soldier. And so soldiers, my brothers and sisters, one every 65 minutes takes their life.
Are you serious?
Yeah. I say 22 a day or more. A day, veteran takes their life.
Oh, wow, I had no idea.
So I was there. Yeah. So I was from 2006 till 2011. That's the space that I was in all those years.
Wow.
And so, some friends saw my behavior and they have this education that they had taken, and so they took them like 3 times or so to introduce me to it. Yeah. And then I finally accepted it. And man, not only did I get my life back, or the life I have now, is where I was on that healing journey of all these other decisions that I made, that even the military decision shaped my life because what happened and what I made it mean.
Yep.
And so we go back to our childhood, what happened and what we make it mean, those 2 worlds collapse. Yeah. And then we look for the evidence to keep that story going. Yeah. And it may not, like I said, it was my truth, but it wasn't the truth.
Right.
And until I was able in that education to put my life in that curriculum up against those principles and realize that it was just not the truth. And so I called all the girls that I had in my phone from my past that I had dated. I called them all. Can you please forgive me? Please forgive me. Please forgive me for my behavior.
Wow.
Please forgive me. And they were like, yeah, I knew you was crazy. Or one be like, hey, you know what? I forgive you. Don't call me no more. Like, why are you calling me? Like, but I had to.
That was for you.
That was for me.
That was for you.
Forgiveness is for us.
Yeah.
Right. And so and along with calling the girlfriends, I called friends, male friends, my parents. Like, I went down the line because I saw who I was being for all those years had an impact on other people around me.
Yeah.
And so I took 100% responsibility for my behavior in every aspect of my life that I could think of to make those corrections with people.
How life-changing is that to be at a place where you can take 100% responsibility for all the crap you created?
The Bible calls it renewing our minds and transformation and being delivered, experiencing being whole and complete, freedom. Like, I understand now that I'm in the Word that that's what the whole mission is. And now I can use the Word, not just the curriculum that I took to develop that, because that conversation is right in the Word. But the Word is going to give us our eternal life and our salvation, not the personal development course.
That's
but
true.
the same work that's the work, renewing our hearts, renewing our minds. And when you do that, that's where transformation happens.
Right. Yeah. That's that's massive. And I like how you said it's my truth, but it's not the truth. And I think if people live by that and they look at that, then that's when everything starts to change. But you got to be a point where you actually want to change. You know, some people change because, okay, you know what, this is not okay how I'm living. And some people change because something tragic happened in their life, right? I mean, but you can choose which one
Why wait?
Do, right?
Why wait?
Why wait?
Why wait?
Right?
Yeah.
And mental health for men is so devalued, in my opinion. There's not enough Farans out there, you know, talking about how we can heal from certain traumas, how we can, in a sense, fix our life, right? How can men begin to heal and walk through a healing journey?
You know, I had to challenge the first 40 years of my life, pretty much, right? And the personal development courses was just one piece. Right. That was one piece that got me back on track because it taught me how human beings function, how we think and the decisions. So that was perfect. I needed that. But it was still stuff missing. Right. And so it took me a few years to get into mental health. You know, we talk mental health is very, like, that stuff is legit. It works. Like you said, but you got to be willing to do that work. At some point in your life, you've got to be willing to do that work. And I jumped into cognitive behavior classes in the VA, and man, the stuff that I learned from the personal development courses, the VA, the cognitive behavior classes, was even better because it taught me about where my thoughts were coming from, and how I said I don't trust women was 100%, right? But when I put that conversation up against that work with my mom's story, because I was tired of that relationship with my mom not working. Okay, I want to go to work in this kind of behavior with the story about how I see my mom. And I put that whole story in that cognitive behavior curriculum, and that's where I discovered it was only 90 minutes. I wasn't abandoned.
Right.
Could I really say I was abandoned
for 90
when I saw it for 90 minutes?
Right.
No. When I told the truth to myself, no. Do I trust women? I do trust women. May not be 100%.
Right.
But then what percent do I trust women? Well, guess what? Today I might trust women 80%. Okay. So then now I can no longer say I don't trust women.
Right.
And then for that 20% that I don't trust, it's still back on me. It's not on her. So then what is it that I'm still dealing with that I can't trust her at what percentage? And again, do we trust anybody 100%? No.
Yeah.
Do you trust the bank teller
Yeah.
to give you your change 100%? No, because you still count it.
Yeah, you still counting.
So we don't trust people 100%.
Yeah.
So then you have to language.
Yeah.
Our language is number one, and how we describe life,
Yeah.
and we describe life more than we say what's so.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, I'm struggling, man.
Yeah.
And you can say I'm struggling too.
Yeah.
But I'm not telling you what my struggles are, so I can't get no help. So we just both agree that we're struggling.
Right, that's it, yeah.
And I'll talk to you later.
Right.
But the what's so is, man, I'm struggling with A, B, and C. Okay, well, then let's figure out how we can get you some help.
And then you find out that the person you're talking to have the same struggles. Right? It's like, oh,
Yeah.
you too?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or some version of that.
Yeah, some version
so
of
now
that,
we
yeah.
can work together
Right.
to figure out
Yeah.
what some support we can go
Right.
figure out, or create a business together.
Right,
So we
right.
now my financial struggles aren't worried about, because we both can bring something to the table. But we don't, again, the pretending,
Yeah.
what it's costing me, and even the payoff is still so good that I get to blame my mom
Yeah.
for the life that I have.
Yeah.
And it's not my responsibility.
Wow. So, man, tell us how we can get the series.
Right now, FerranD.com, the life of the series. Right now, I did the 5-year-old,
Okay.
the perception of my perception of my father, and I did the Latchkey Kid of 1978. I don't want to be an author.
Yeah.
Like the identity that I'm holding on to
Right.
is my rank. Like I
Right.
earned that. Nobody
Right.
can take that away from me.
Yeah.
But I'm learning as I figure out who Ferran is,
Yeah.
that I don't even want these identities,
Yeah.
because I'm still trying to figure out who Ferran. So adding the author,
Yeah.
published author as a label,
Right.
I don't want that. But I know that in order for me to get this word out, I have to publish it somehow,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it took me 5 or 6 years to do that, publish those. Those were done like years ago,
Okay.
but I didn't want that identity.
I heard the reading. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, it's definitely a gift there. It's going to help so many people.
Yeah.
It is.
So the FerranD.com, I have 10.
Okay.
I still I'm writing the other 8
Okay.
in the process,
Okay.
because I'm seeing how effective
Yeah.
they are,
Yeah.
and so they're on Kindle, Amazon on Kindle, and on my website I have it where you can download it from the.
We'll put some links down there so some
Yeah,
people can grab it.
but
2 more questions. One is anything for us in closing.
For me, when I went back to kind of figure out who Ferran is today, I had to challenge my ideology, my philosophy, and my theology, right?
Okay.
And depending on what that is for you, for people, we're used by some principles,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And sometimes those principles are corrupted
Yeah.
based off of our past and where we got them from.
Yeah.
So I say, whoever you say you are today, find those principles in life so you can gauge your views, your ideas, your feelings up against something outside of your mind.
Okay.
And for me, that was, my theology is the Bible. I grew up in the Word, and that's my belief in my theology. So I gauge my life up against,
Yeah.
because the Bible is principles.
Yeah.
They're kingdom principles,
Right.
and how to live. There's nothing in there for me that tells me how to treat somebody bad.
Right.
Right. So for me, my family grew up in the church, so I use the Bible as those principles. The personal development courses that I took, I still take those today.
Yeah, you have to.
And so that's my philosophy,
Right.
because it gives me a better understanding of how to be a better human being, and who I am and how I show up and all that other. So those are the principles I use, those. And then the cognitive behavior class is my ideology, because again, it taught me how exaggerated my thoughts were.
Yeah.
So at any given time of the day, when I get into those dark spaces, 'cause I still have them, I'm still the old Ferran,
Yeah.
but I'm committed to being the person I am today. So I gauge all that old stuff up against who I am today with those principles, and then that's how I get back on track. And all of it leads me back to the Word.
There you go.
So I believe that, well, for me, my spirit leads my life.
Yeah.
A lot of times in the past, my subconscious mind
Yeah.
guided my life on how I felt. And when you understand feelings and emotions, you have them and you don't have to become them.
Right.
When you can learn the difference between that and your subconscious mind and what it's designed for, then my spirit wants to live life. My subconscious mind wants to survive life. So I'm choosing to live my life through
You're
the
choosing.
biblical principles, where I get my salvation
Yeah.
and I get my spirit in line. So now my spirit feeds my soul,
Right.
and my soul now takes that information to my
Right.
body, and
I
so
love it.
we get that back in
I
alignment.
love it. So the podcast is called The Truth About Him, right? So what's the truth about Farron?
The truth about Farron is, man, I'm still trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
But the truth is, I own everything that I say.
Mhm.
I take responsibility for everything that I do, and I still make mistakes.
Yeah.
But guess what? Instead of me catching it 2 years later, maybe I can catch it in 2 minutes.
There you go. There you
And
go.
I'm willing to make those corrections and take responsibility for my actions.
There you go. Well, I appreciate you being here. I appreciate
doubt.
the long trip from
Oh, yeah, it's good.
But yeah, this was a blessing for you, man. You definitely ministered to me, and I'm sure people watching this and listening to this will definitely be blessed from it. So thank you very much, and let's get you back here soon.
I'm ready, man. This is what I'm dedicated to do the rest of my life.
Okay.
Because again, we our children.
Yeah.
Like that cliche
Yeah.
about our children is not a cliche. Like
Yeah,
it is
yeah,
real. And
yeah.
if we don't take responsibility for it, then who's
Responsibility.
going to do it?
Yeah.
And I'm willing to dedicate my life for that.
Cool.
For that work.
All right, sir. Thank you very much again.
No doubt.